binge on a movie. Today I just ushered for a movie called The Nun, and it was certainly horrible? Okay, apart from that bad opening, it's time to talk about The Nun, a horror movie that I've seen in October, but it was actually released last month. The theatre I work at is very late to the party. This movie follows three of our main characters: Father Burke, played by Damien Bashir, Sister Irene, played by Thaisa Farmiga, and of course, Frenchie, who is actually a French-Canadian farmer who is actually named Maurice, played by Jonas Bloquet. They tried to unravel the mystery surrounding the death of one of the nuns who committed suicide in Romania. Turns out that there's a demonic nun floating around the monastery and has to be vanquished into the pits of hell or something. She is played by Bonnie Aarons, whose real appearance looks more creepy than the character she portrays in the film. Trust me, I don't give that compliment to any other celebrity. Unlike other horror movies, this movie is set in the Conjuring Universe. Wait, there is a Conjuring Universe? What? Yes, apparently after doing research, it turns out that this movie is a spin-off movie in the Conjuring Universe. In fact, even the trailer states that it's the darkest chapter in the Conjuring Universe.
They have a superhero universe. Why can't we do that in the horror world?
Okay. Marvel and DC better watch their backs then. To preface, I have never seen any of the other Conjuring movies, so my knowledge of the lore and branching stories that happen is quite alien to me. But that doesn't mean that I'm exempt in talking about a horror movie in general. Believe it or not, I watch horror movies too, and I'll give you 3 good examples of what my taste in horror movies is like. The first being The Shining. This movie implements cinematography to create an unnatural moving environment that emits a level of suspense and atmosphere. Memorable scenes that stand out, recognizable performances, and coupled with the music by Pentrecki and Bela Bartok, gives the movie its own iconic status among moviegoers. The second example is The Blair Witch Project. First found footage movie of its time, and it really handles the concept of we cannot grasp what we can't see. Really allows our imaginations to thrive and picture what really lurks inside the forest. And the final example, The Descent. It has its jump scares, sure, but the claustrophobic nature of this film really makes watching it unnerving and terrifying. Not to mention that the crawlers that the female cast fend off were actually cavemen that never left the cave after thousands of years. Plus the ending, if you live in the UK, really makes you think. What? Alright, back to The Nun. If the movie itself wasn't much of an icing on the cake to your horror satisfaction, I had to encounter the most terrifying thing I have ever come across.
Teenagers.
Yeah, there were a lot of teenagers that went to see the movie, almost filling up the entire theatre. Then I immediately thought, oh, this is going to spiral into chaos by the end of the movie, isn't it? But surprisingly, they behaved accordingly. They didn't tweet on their mobile phones for a change, thank God for that. Funny because I had to deal with shitty teenagers in the past that would not cooperate, and it was such a hassle. True story. Apart from that, what did I think of The Nun? It's alright. It's not good, not bad, just alright. It's one of those type of horror movies, you know the one. The ones that relies on way too many jump scares to make you wet yourself, instead of focusing on the story and or atmosphere. Most of the scares you come to see are in this movie. You have figures standing far away and just walk off screen, everything going silent followed by a loud noise, and let's not forget, nightmare scares. The kind of scares that only happens in the character's dreams that foreshadows what will happen later on in the movie. And for how predictable these jump scares are, suddenly made the teenagers jump out of their seats. There are scares and effects that work quite well to the film's advantage, but that means you have to trudge through the terrible scares to get to the good ones, and you'll know when the good scares come if you look really hard enough. The movie starts off with some decent build-up, to be honest, letting you know what kind of threat you're facing. Not to mention the atmosphere has an eerie side to it. Sadly, all of that is thrown away when the third act arrives and it starts to become ridiculously stupid. Even the audience was laughing their asses off at this point, and I've seen some ridiculousness in horror movies before. There is a recurring joke in this movie that the sister forgets to take her vows and every side character immediately notices. Not to mention, Frenchie over here spouts one-liners when he's armed. For example, there is a shotgun in the movie that is only used for emergencies, so Frenchie nicks the shotgun and shoots the nun in the face with it, which leads to this brilliant quote, "This felt like an emergency." Sometimes the CG is very noticeable that it takes you out of the experience and makes certain scares very lacking. However, the blood, the fog that bounces off the walls, and the cinematography down long hallways makes the film shine in capturing the sense of dread and suspense, when there isn't a jump scare happening. And just like that, the horror ended as soon as I thought. And I was like, wow, that ended really quickly. And rightfully so, because the movie wasn't as serious as I thought it would be. After all the time spent with characters slowly walking around, nuns praying, and plenty of shots of doors, makes this movie end as soon as it started. In conclusion, if you're a real big fan of The Conjuring, go watch this movie, I ain't gonna stop you. For a horror veteran or moviegoer, there are better horror movies out there to watch that are worth more of your time. Anything you can expect to happen in this movie, don't be surprised if it turns out to be true. But hey, what do I know? This is just from an Usher's position.